And welcome everyone to the PCS Like a Pro show. I'm your host, Megan Harless. As always, I'm excited for you to join us today because we're going to be continuing our series about home loans and sharing everything that you need to know about them. And today, more specifically, about the red flags when you're trying to start that home buying process and all the things you need to know there. Before we get into that, I want to remind everybody, I've seen so many people come down with their official orders. And just a reminder, get into DPS and get your moves set up as soon as you possibly can. Even if you plan on doing a PPM, you need to have that set up in DPS as well, because you need to tell the military how you plan on moving. And doing a PPM, it requires some extra paperwork, some extra signatures, approval, counseling. If you're having the military move you, you want your shipment in line for when they start booking those summer moves. So if you are moving May 15th or later, you're not going to get movers assigned until about mid-April, but you want your shipment set up now. So once they start booking, yours is in line and they can go ahead and start booking yours too. So don't forget to get all of that done. Do not sit and hold on to your orders at all. Get it set up in DPS as soon as you possibly can. If for some reason you find yourself in that lovely phase of having short notice with your orders where you get them and you need to be moving in 2 weeks, walk them into your transportation office so that way they can be able to handle the short notice move at their level and get that taken care of a little bit quicker. So get your move set up, y'all. We're going to get into today because we got a lot of information to cover, a lot of good things to tell you all about when it comes to your home loans and using the VA loan as well. And joining us, as always, is our favorite loaner, VA loan officer, is Michelle. So Michelle, thank you for joining us today.
Always fun to be here.
And can you just take a moment and tell everybody that doesn't already know who you are a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So I am the military client and community liaison here at Caliber Home Loans. So I get to do everything having to do with loan education, VA loan education directly to our veterans, their family members, our active duty service members, as well as to the real estate community, helping them better understand the VA loan program. I'm also a 30 plus year, now I'm going to just say plus, I'm not going to give away how many, military spouse, now veteran spouse. So this is a community that is near and dear to my heart and actually is one of the main reasons that I even got into this crazy business 20 plus years ago. So this is what I love to do, and being with you guys just is icing on the cake.
Yes, retirement, where we all hope to be at some point in time. So let's dive into today. When we start the home buying process, the shopping around, why is it important to also shop our lenders as well?
So, a lot of people don't think about this. They are like, all lenders, they are not created equal, the company or the actual loan officer. And there are a lot of companies that don't do VA loans, or they don't do a lot of VA loans. And same thing with the loan officer, right? You may have a loan officer that has been in the business for 15, 20 years, but they don't do a lot of VA loans, or they don't work a lot with the military. So their knowledge of the VA loan is a lot less. And it's really important because even when you're in the hub of a military city, you can still find loan officers that don't know or have misconceptions themselves about the VA loan. In fact, the last time I saw statistics, only 13% of veterans or active duty service members that were eligible and had entitlement to go with a VA loan actually did so in, I think it was like 2018 was the last time we had any specific numbers on that. Only 13% used their benefit. And the main reason when we started digging in as to why people didn't, because in most circumstances, the VA loan is the best loan program if you're buying a primary residence and you have entitlement. But we found that 33% of the military, the active duty or veterans didn't know about the benefit, or 26% of the loan officers never asked the question to the customer if they'd ever served. And even 8% of the lenders or real estate agents actively dissuaded their clients from going with a VA loan. So if you aren't knowledgeable a little bit yourself, and if you don't ask pertinent questions, you may not be given the offer or the option of even considering the VA loan, or you may talk to someone that doesn't know the ins and outs and unfortunately either erroneously tells you that you're not eligible or tells you that you're fine, and you find out a little bit further down the line you're not. So all lenders are not created equal. They're going to have their niches. So you want to make sure that you're always finding a loan officer and a company that can support you in looking at seriously the VA loan.
No, absolutely. And we got a comment here from Christine that those numbers that you gave us are disturbing, and they absolutely are. Just as it's important to shop around our realtors, to shop around our vendors, as you said, to make sure we're going somebody that understands our needs and understands the loan and knows all the ins and outs too. I will say there were many years ago where I thought, you use your VA home loan like when you left the service. It was one of those benefits you got for service, for serving your country, not realizing it was something you could use while you were still active duty and moving around the country as well. It's like, no wonder people were able to buy homes everywhere. They used their VA loan. They didn't just have pockets full of money or parents helping them, as I thought in my early days of everything. So yeah, I definitely need to shop around our lenders. Is there we always say, there's a certain number of folks you should shop around to when we talk about real estate, whether it's your realtors or lenders. Is there a number of lenders that somebody should talk to, or do you just keep going until you find one that gives you the warm and fuzzies?
I'd say it's a combination there. You're at least going to want to talk to 2 or 3, right? If you 2 or 3, usually out of that 2 or 3, you will find someone that you click with. And that is important, right? That it's someone that you can trust, that you feel confident in, that understands and communicates with you like you want to. I mean, if you've asked the right questions, you'll get a sense of their knowledge and background. If you get into 5, 6, 7, 8, now you've got a lot of people, depending how far down that rabbit hole you go, that may be pulling credit, that may be giving you erroneous information, or that's creating more questions than it's answering. There's not a best number. It is finding that right person for you. 2 to 3, absolutely, because you need to get that sense. 10 or 11, probably that's too many. I don't know about you, but I think I wouldn't be able to keep them all straight. It's like, which furniture shopping, when I've been in and out of all those different furniture stores, which one did I like? Where was it? What did the salesman say? So I would say 2 to 3, 3 to 4, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we always want to be like the furniture shopping, well, I like this color from this store, but I like this feature of this one, and how do I can mold these together? But 2 to 3 definitely is a good number. And we always hear all the times that real estate agents usually have what they call their preferred lender as well. And I know a lot of times we get sucked into okay, well, we'll just go with them because it's somebody they know that they can work with, but that preferred lender may not always be the best fit for what you need and what's going on with that. So you mentioned in there, asking some of the right questions. So what are some of those questions we should be asking them besides, do you know the VA loan?
Well, you want to actually dig a little bit with that, right? So some of the questions that I would want to know is how many VA loans have you closed in the last 6 months, right? Because if they go 2, maybe they do or don't, but that's usually one of those little, I need to ask a lot more questions, right? I'd ask for testimonials from some of their VA previous clients. Some of the things, can you order my COE for me? Because any lender worth their weight when it comes to a VA loan has access, or their team does, to the VA portal, and they can order that initial certificate of eligibility for you, or at least find out whether VA has any questions or needs additional documentation from you. You don't have to go order that yourself. Your lender can. They don't know that. They don't know the VA loan program. I'd ask them, how long does it typically take them to close a VA loan? If they say it takes longer than a regular loan, if they say it takes longer than 30 days, I'd have some questions, because a VA loan does not take longer than a conventional conforming loan does. So these are little things that can crop up, right? If you ask them, hey, I've got a current VA loan already, and I want to get a second VA loan, and they tell you you can't do that without getting a lot more information from you, because you can have more than one VA loan. A lot of lenders don't really understand that, don't know it, and will tell you out of the gate, oh no, you can't do that. So those are some of the things that, if you know just enough, you can test the knowledge of the loan officer that you're talking with to make sure that some of those things are recognized. Like, is there a VA max loan limit? There's not a cookie cutter answer to that, because it depends. If you don't have entitlement, it's unlimited. If you do have some entitlement in use, then it's going to be capped at where you're purchasing and that max loan amount. So there's little nuances there. And if you can arm yourself with one or two bits that will help you ask the question and see if the loan officer knows the answers, then that will help you tremendously. And then asking for some evidence of their knowledge and or of their actual work that they have done on VA loans.
No, absolutely. And we're going to help everybody, arm you on everything you should need to know, because this is what, our fifth segment that we've done together about VA loans. And so when we get done, I'm going to go grab the link to our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to go back and see all the other segments that we did with Michelle. If you're looking at buying a home in this upcoming season, go back, go ahead and watch them. We break everything down from, breaking down the VA loan and all the little details you need to know there, refinancing, all the stuff you need to know there, some myths and facts to kind of help clear the air on what you need to know, and then this one as well. So take the time to go back and definitely check them out. If you guys got questions too about VA loans during the show, drop them in the comments. Even if you catch the replay, I'll be watching the comments, and I will definitely send them to Michelle to get the answers that you need to be able to help you be more informed about the VA loan process. We've kind of heard some of them as you've talked a little bit through, some of the questions that we should be asking. But what are your top 3 red flags that should be like warning signs to us when we're talking with a lender and kind of shopping around to see who knows their information?
If they tell you that every lender has the exact same requirements on a VA loan, that's actually not necessarily true. Each lender has their own overlays. So VA puts out a very general guideline book that says these are the things that would make you, that a lender has to look at. And then based on that, they want the underwriters, the companies, to make good logical decisions on the actual decision that they make on that approval of a loan. For example, so the VA does not say anything about credit scores. There is not a minimum required credit score according to VA. But every lender is going to have their own overlay that says, for our company, this is the minimum credit score. In some cases, it can be as low as 580. Some other lenders may say it has to be 680 or 640. 620 is usually the average that I see in the industry. But a lot of companies will go down to 580. So don't believe that just because one company says yes or no means that every company will. So if they tell you that everybody does VA loans the exact same way, that is not correct. Okay, so that's one. If they share with you their own VA horror stories in actually trying to get one through, or recommending that you don't go with VA, double check that with somebody else, right? Because again, there's a lot of misconceptions out there. If they can't tell you how they help you as the buyer with sellers and being your advocate and getting the seller to seriously consider a VA loan contract offer, that's a red flag, right? If they're like, oh, well, if they are mentioning that listing agents don't like VA loans, they're not going to get one accepted, that can be a huge red flag. They're not doing their job as your advocate with the sellers in that case, helping them understand why they should consider your offer. So those are some of the things. If they say it takes longer to close, harder to qualify, horror stories, the appraiser comes in low often, those are red flags. That means that they're not doing, probably their lack of knowledge is creating issues in their ability to create a smooth transaction for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we've got here in the comments, Dustin joining us. I know Dustin is in Germany. A little love for our Michelle, that she's always learning more and more. I know, Dustin, you've been on other webcasts that we've had Michelle on, and where it was like the light bulb, and that episode of Friends where it's like Phoebe and Joey, and it's like, that's brand new information. I think the big one for you was finding out about the VA funding fee, that if you have a disability greater than 0, that can be waived and you don't have to pay it, where you guys, I know, didn't know that the first time you went to go buy your home and you paid that funding fee. So we hear a lot in the networks and in the groups about, using a national lender versus a local lender. What's the difference between a national versus a local lender? And is one really better than the other?
Okay, so let's start with the second part of that question first, and then we'll hit the first part. So a national lender will tell you that they are better than your local lenders, and a local lender will tell you that they are better than the national lender. I will tell you that it depends on the loan officer themselves, because a loan officer, to be excellent, does not have to live where you live or where you're buying to be great. On the flip side, it can be helpful sometimes, right? If I'm a local lender, I'm going to tell you all the reasons why you should use me. I'm going to make it feel like a more intimate transaction. I know the appraisers. I'm here. I can walk into the title company. Your real estate agent can walk into my office and wring my neck if I'm not doing something right? It gives you that sense of a small community. It doesn't necessarily mean that your real estate agent and your lender will ever talk seriously, or that they'll ever meet each other, or that they'll ever see each other. It just gives you that kind of warm fuzzy. On the national side, if you're working with someone, again, that really focuses on VA loans, their knowledge and their ability and the people that they work with, their VA underwriters, their VA closers, location doesn't matter. They know the program and process, and they've got things worked out. So they have pros and cons either way. If you want to walk in and sit down and physically see your lender, local would be better for you. If you're okay with a Zoom call or with a phone call and texting and some of that technology, then a national, someone that isn't necessarily right there in that city, is just fine. So there's not one that's better than the other, but they will always tell you why they think their situation is absolutely best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And asking those questions that you gave us too about, their knowledge of the VA loan can also determine, is that local lender versus the national lender, worth it? Because what is their knowledge of what it is you're trying to do?
Well, and so a local lender may also be a very small company that's only located in that one area, right? So there are a lot of mom and pop shops. But then you've got like a national lender. Caliber's one that we've got offices in most states. Now, we may not have one exactly in the city you are moving to, but there's probably one within 50, 100 miles. Or we've got a platform of a centralized team that's all together that really focuses on VA loans. So it doesn't really matter where that person is. A national lender may be local. A local lender may not be national. It may be just that specific region or city that that particular lender is in.
Yeah. So with it, when we start this process of wanting to buy a home and we start with one lender, is there anywhere in the process where we can be like, this lender isn't really working for us and change to another lender? Or is there like with the real estate agents where you sign like a contract agreement and you're kind of like stuck with that lender and you got to work through whatever the issues are?
You are not beholden to the lender that you are talking to until you go to closing and close the documents. Now, you get so far along in the process, it's probably a real pain to change lenders in the middle. You're under contract, you're headed toward closing. That's not something that we willy-nilly just go, oh, let's just see what else is going on out there. Because then you start over with a new lender. But there is not like a buyer's agreement that you sign. If a lender asks you to pay them a deposit for doing your loan, I question that. The only things you should be paying for outside of closing is your credit report potentially, and maybe your appraisal. But if they're asking you for a deposit, a transactional deposit, or a transactional fee up front, nope, run.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I always just think, when we get down the rabbit hole, if, for some reason this lender talks us into being like, yes, I can take care of everything. I know all the VA stuff. And then you get so far into that rabbit hole and you're just like, they really have no idea what they're doing. I need to switch to someone else.
Yeah.
That there really is, but until you get to closing, you can switch and go through whatever the hassle is to find somebody that is better and can take care of you a little bit better than trying to like Google for them and send them articles of how their job needs to be done.
Yes. If you're actually trying to explain to them how to do their job, find another lender wherever you are in that process.
Yes, absolutely. So as we wrap up today, what else do others need to know about in finding a good lender for the military community that we have not already discussed?
So, one of the things I always do, and even when I have loan officers that want me to potentially refer them clients, I Google their profile, right? So I want to see on their biographies, right? On their profiles, on whether it's their website with their company, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on Facebook, whatever that is, LinkedIn. I want to look at their profile. And if I get that sense, right, if they're putting out there that maybe they are military spouse or they are a veteran or active duty themselves and that they focus on VA loans. If they're finding some commonality, right? They're really putting themselves out there as that expert and you can see maybe some of the things that they are doing within that space. I'd say that's absolutely worth taking a look at. If you pull up someone's profile and all they're doing is talking about second homes or, doing non-conforming, non-QM, these weird different loans, but they're not talking about the VA loan, that's not the niche that they probably are focusing on. That may be someone that you're like, okay, of these two, I'm going to talk to this one first. So you can do a little bit of research there to kind of find out. You can ask, right? Huge. You can watch episodes like this and get a good sense of some of the questions and some of the lenders that may be out there. But don't hesitate to pick up the phone or pick up the phone. Okay, so yes, I'm an Xer, not a millennial or a Zer. But whether you text or DM or whatever it is to that military spouse group where you're moving, and ask them who they might recommend. What have they experienced? Because if they've had a good experience, right? We're military spouses. We're going to share that. We're going to share that loud and proud, as you know, Megan, because you've done that yourself many times. We are great at helping to narrow down that playing field for you as well, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Our communities of word of mouth being the gold standard when you ask in those spouse groups, about everything, recommendations from realtors to lenders to hairstylists to whatever. People are going to share the good experiences they had, and they're going to share those bad experiences of who to stay away from as well. So we got some comments coming in. We got Carla. Thanks, Michelle and Megan. We got Brittany joining us. And then just a lot of things happening there. And then Dustin, commenting as well. We share those bad experiences too, and we absolutely do. There's been times where commenting on somebody's request in a group about something, just being like, do not go here, like whatever, like anywhere will be better than this dance studio or this whatever. We share those good and the bad. Then we got Isabel joining us and chiming in that, I have a lender that I will never work with again. If anyone wants to ask, huge lender that depends on military, but just awful service. Again, we share those good and the bad. So if you're not sure if your realtor is like, hey, this is my preferred lender, go here. Don't be afraid to go ask in the spouses group, who's worked with this person before, and get some real feedback from them. Google their name, search their name in that spouses group as well. Most spouses group, I believe, however, you can even post anonymous now too. Or you can message, one of the admins, say, hey, can you post this anonymously for me? And everyone that I've run into is always happy to do that. So definitely that word of mouth. As I said, I'm going to go back. I'm going to link all the other episodes we've had with Michelle. We're going to make you all experts on the VA loan, so that when you start asking questions of the lenders, they're going to be like, who are you? Like, how do you know all of this? And the last question I want to ask you, Michelle, that I didn't send you previously, but everybody wants to know, because I've been hearing about it. And everybody wants to know, as they're looking at buying houses for their next duty assignment, because we're in the process of moving, is our housing market crashing at all? Are interest rates coming down at all? Can I hold off for a month before purchasing a house because something's happening? Or are we just kind of flatlining and this is what our new normal is?
Well, let me pull out my crystal ball. Hold on.
Yes. We love the crystal ball answers.
We were hopeful that we would see the interest rates ticking down this year, and ideally kind of maybe hoping we would see that in the first quarter. We have not. The market, we were kind of thinking that we would be hitting a recession. Recessions are great for interest rates. We aren't at this point, and we may or may not hit a recession. So this year, really, we're kind of expecting rates to stay where they are, or maybe bounce around a little bit with maybe hopefully a little tick down. But we were really thinking that we were going to be closer to 6.25, 6 by the end of the first quarter. But now we just saw in the last week or two rates bouncing back up again. I don't necessarily see them going significantly higher at this point, but I don't see them becoming significantly lower in the short-term foreseeable future. Long-term, we do expect them to trickle down a little bit, but we don't at this point. I'm not even going to guess when. You can pull up two different commentators and get two completely different answers when it comes to the financial situation. I can tell you we do not expect the housing market, especially as a whole, to crash. There's just the issues today versus the issues that we had in 2008 when the real estate market did crash are completely different. 2008 was all about lenders making bad loan decisions, qualifying people, putting people in houses that never should have been in them, and doing so at a detriment to them, right? Today, people are qualifying, right? They're having to show income. They're having to show assets. They qualify for the properties they're in. So we don't expect to see that playing a negative component. What I think will also keep it very stable is the fact that there's not inventory. There's still, and there's going to be for 3 to 5 years, it's going to take a long time for there to be more inventory than there are buyers. So that low inventory level will keep property prices very similar to where they're at. We do not see in most locations a decrease in values. We expect smaller increases, right? So appreciation will still happen. It's just going to happen at a smaller rate than what we have seen in the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. And that inventory, as Brittany said in the comments, being so low. I've got a few friends that are planning their PCS, and one of them recently went under contract on a house, sight unseen, a new build before the house hit the market, because they were looking at another house on that street, and 3 more were being built. So as soon as the sign was, the builder would not entertain offers or anything until they put a sign in the yard as they were getting closer to the house being finished. And so I guess that realtor drove like every day to check to when other signs were put in those houses that were about to be finished. And as soon as the sign was in the yard, like, she called and they put in an offer and went under contract, because they were just very limited on their options of where they were going to be in the area that they wanted to live in as well. They were doing it based off a school district because they have 3 school-age children, knew they were going to be there for several years, knew the school system was going to make a difference for them, and they were okay with the commute, but there were just so few options in that school district where they wanted to be. And, just that financial aspect with the interest rate being a little over their BAH of what their mortgage payment's going to be. And we kind of have to remind everybody too, that how long ago was it that interest rates were 18, 19%, and that was normal?
Yeah.
And here, we cry at 7%, but we went so long as my generation was becoming adults and buying houses, and it was 2-3%. Occasionally we got up to 4%, and then it dropped again. And so now it's just like, why in 7? But we got to remember, like, our parents and our grandparents paid 18%, and that was normal.
And there will be a balance, right? Yeah. So if rates are higher, people still have to be able to afford, to be able to buy. For someone to be able to sell their house, someone has to be able to buy it. So that will help keep, between interest rates and property values, right, what they're selling it for, it will help keep them somewhat in line. If they've got a house priced and they're not buyers because people can't afford it, they'll drop their price a little bit. So we are seeing a lot less pressure, as in multiple offers, things flying off the shelf, people offering significantly over. We're seeing a lot of that really die off. We're in a much more balanced, where the sellers are willing to give a little bit, the buyers are willing to give a little bit, versus what we saw, last year at this time or prior to.
As I was trying to buy last year at this time, trying to figure. That was a good, fun experience. And now we're in the waiting game to find out what our future is in the next 8 weeks, to find out, are we expecting a move again later this year, or do we get to stay for a couple more years? So I'm hoping that by the time we get ready to actually buy again and go through that process, that interest rates come down. Because I know Isabel, she's crying at 5.25%, which I'm hoping it's, we're under double digits by the time we go to buy. Fingers crossed. There was that meme that was going around last year. It's like, I was hoping for a housing crash so I can buy a 4,000 square foot home for like, $1.25 and some Chick-fil-A nuggets.
Absolutely.
Like what we all want when it's PCS season, right? Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today and taking the time.
Oh my, as always, I love being here. I love being part of the conversation, and you can always reach out with any questions.
Yes. And where can people reach out to you at?
The easiest one, because, this is what we're talking about, is PCS@caliberhomeloans.com. That comes directly to me. And I love this stuff, love talking about it. So don't hesitate. If you have questions, just give me a ring.
Yes, absolutely. And we're not getting rid of Michelle. She's going to be around for us for a while. Anytime we do home lending stuff, she will be here. If you guys got questions, reach out to her or message the page. We'll pass it on to her. And I will go back, as I said before, link all of our other episodes into the comments. So as you guys are all preparing for PCS season and buying your homes, you can go back, watch all the episodes, and go in armed with all of the knowledge, prepared, and just wow your loan officer with everything that you know, and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing for you. Everyone else joining us and watching, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and joining us. Next week, You see Isabel there in the comments. She's a military spouse, also on the industry side now with her company, Logs and Mill Moves. She's going to be joining us next week and sharing information about how the industry wants us to pack and prep for our home. Do we really need to take everything off of our walls? Is it okay if stuff is laid out everywhere? Do I really need to lock stuff behind a closed door? Can I just tape it off? She's going to give us all the info for what the industry prefers we do when we go to prep our home. So be sure to join us again next week, same time, same place. We'll be here for that. Until then, if you guys are preparing for your PCS, you got issues, questions, comments, concerns, whatever it is, please do not hesitate to reach out. We are always more than happy to help or help direct you to the regulation or the office you need to talk to. And until then, make sure you take care of each other.